Hey, welcome to Finding My Wings again. This is Jesse here. I'm going to do another little bit of an unboxing why I bought this and review on the MTEC clutch lightning spring for the Scion FRS, Toyota GT86, and Subaru BRZ, depending on what market you're in. So this is something that a lot of Subaru guys know about, that the actual clutch pedal on the FRS 86 BRZ is a little weird. So you do have a pretty stiff spring in the stock car. Personally, it's been a little bit of a weird experience to drive the car with the clutch feeling that way. I've got to the point where I can drive it very smoothly and I can predict exactly where it's going to grab, and you can feel it, as much as you can. But it was definitely not the nicest driving experience compared to some other cars that I've driven. So pick these up. I think they're under 20 bucks. You can buy them from a lot of local kind of resellers. MTEC or something like FT Speed, of course. So you get this awesome spring in here. You can feel, I don't have the original one of the car, so I can't really feel what the original one feels like, but looks good, looks high quality, looks like the right size. Don't go and try to makeshift something from Canadian Tire or your local parts store. You might just end up with a spring that doesn't compress properly or wears out over time, or it's not the right diameter and can cause some major problems if you can't get that clutch to engage or disengage properly. And of course you have kind of a makeshift clamp, basically. So these are going to be used to just hold this together when you put everything back in. So you just kind of put them through, try to avoid getting them all through the end, and you pull it tight. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to move to the installation in a second, and we'll do a little bit of a review and a video about what it feels like and what the value is on these things. Alright, so we're going to do the MTEC clutch spring installation. A lot of this is going to be a little bit hard to film because it's up under right at the clutch pedal, and I'm a little bit bigger of a guy, so I don't really fit in there well with the camera and stuff. But I'll do the best I can to really show any tips that we have, at least for installing it. There's a really great video that FT Speed put out that shows really everything that you need to know. Probably a bit more preparation than you and I'm doing. So I'll just get right into this, see what it is, and try to focus a little bit more on the review and any tips here. Alright, so being able to get the little pin head off is awesome to do with like a little pry tool. Just pop it out, and just anything you can to knock that kind of bolt pin through. As you're getting it to the end, what I was doing was a lot of actually moving the pedal back and forth while I hit it with a little bit of a wedge, and then the combination in there somewhere enough to work it free. And to get over that last little hump, just use a flat head or something to kind of keep prying this out. Hard to film, so I'll just show it when it's out. Alright, so successfully got this out of here. You just have to use it like exactly what they say in FT Speed, just a flat head with a long piece on it. The flat head because it can kind of go under where the clutch lever assembly goes. Once you get under there, you'll see you just need to basically knock this right out of there. Or this is the top end. This is the spring, pretty easy. The bottom piece stays intact under there, and you just want to get this spring out. You can try it with your hands and see that I can barely press the stock one together, and the left one I can compress quite a bit with very little pressure. So the next thing to do, put these together. I'm going to use this like a compression tool. And try to get it through the edges so it doesn't get caught in there once you actually put it together. And just keep compressing it and pushing it together. I mean, that's quite a bit shorter than what came out of it, so hopefully this is enough to get it back in there. But if not, we'll keep compressing it. Alright, so there it is. All installed, put back together. I pulled the twist ties, or the zip ties back out of it, and it's all good to go. Pedal's moving freely. Does feel a bit lighter. And yeah, be safe. Make sure you don't lose that little clip up at the top. But if you do, of course, it probably won't even jam. This thing works. It took a lot of force and pressure to even get out of there, but don't lose that clip. And if you do, go find another one. So let's take it for a drive and see what it's like. Hey, so we have the MTEC clutch spring installed. And so what it does is it really lightens the spring tension versus the stock spring. If you've ever driven one of these cars, or a WRX with the F820 motor at least, you've probably noticed that the clutch is very, very heavy, to the point where it was just annoying. It didn't really need to be that heavy. A lot of folks do remove the spring completely. I don't really like it. If there's any clutch hang at all, it's just not worth it for the longevity of the car. And of course, having something in there is safer and it is better. So the MTEC clutch springs are installed right now. I've been driving the car for like 4 months with them in. I just never really remembered to review them, or post it at least. So when I actually recorded everything initially, I just had life, work, lockdowns and everything hit pretty hard, and we never really got around to actually reviewing, editing, and posting everything. And so this is going to be one of those videos where I'm actually going to catch up with some things I've installed and at least provide a review. So, the MTEC clutch springs. So right now you can easily feel the clutch just moves nicely. No weird issues. It's a nice linear movement. It still feels stiff enough that there's something there. You can rest your foot on it a little bit and it won't depress much. So I'm going to drive it around. I have some thoughts. I've been driving it for like 4 months with the clutch installed. But let's just see what it feels like. So I found it immediately easier to shift, to really know where the clutch is actually going to engage. And just overall, when you're in traffic, especially in the city, and you're on and off the clutch constantly, it put a little bit less strain on my ankles and my feet, especially I have size 13 shoes. So they're already a little bit stressed in this tiny little footwell. It was actually funny enough, my dad had to drive this car just moving it around in his yard when we were doing oil coatings and things. And he said the same thing, that the first time he drove it, it was just really hard to know where the clutch was engaging or not. And after driving with these clutches, it was pretty obvious where the clutch was engaging. So when you actually press in the clutch, it just feels lighter. It's really when you're depressing the clutch and you come off just a little bit, you can actually feel where the car engages. I was never really able to feel that nicely, at least with the stock clutch spring installed. Tried it just briefly without a clutch spring and it felt weird. It just felt too light. It felt like there's nothing really there, nothing going on. So this clutch spring, I think, is the best of both worlds. It definitely helps you shift, helps you learn your car, helps you do like speed shifting and things a lot more easy than stock. I think stock can be used just fine, but I would recommend the clutch springs. They're like 35 bucks Canadian, I think, when we got them, so it's a really worthwhile upgrade. For me, that was actually the biggest challenge getting to learn this car, was the clutch itself. Definitely not the first manual car I've driven, but the heaviest clutch I've ever driven or heard of. When I went to go wash this car one of the first few times, I pulled up to a car wash and a guy in a WRX, F820 powered WRX, pulled up beside me and he said, "Have you removed your clutch spring yet?" I was like, "Oh, okay, well, it's real." And he made that his first recommendation, is if you're gonna love this car and you're gonna really drive it, change that clutch spring. Definitely haven't really stalled the car other than some stupid misbehavior on my part since installing it. Whereas I did install it a few times, let's just say, in the first winter, getting used to driving the car in the city with all the hills and just learning this clutch altogether. So overall, to me, the very minimal price tag on this is worth it. MTEC really knows their stuff. The quality control, the actual quality of the product, perfect, no issues. I'd say it's at least as good as OEM. To me, if you're driving a manual car, sorry about that. If you're driving a manual car and you have any issues with this clutch or shifting in the car, try out these clutch springs. It actually might be worthwhile to just remove the clutch spring completely, just to test it out and see if that actually helps or not. If that doesn't help, then I would recommend putting it back in, making sure you get all your clips back on it. It is a safety issue. You don't want your clutch to mess up while you're in traffic or driving enthusiastically. So I appreciate you coming and watching my channel. Any likes, comments, subscriptions are appreciated. any feedback. We're still going to keep growing with this car. I'm going to keep growing myself, and these videos are definitely for you. So let me know how you feel, if there's anything that we should improve or anything else you'd like to see about the car. So thank you very much. This is Finding My Wings.